Hi, and welcome to Trend Nerds. I'm Mark Samueda, and I'm going to be giving you a demo of what Trend Nerds is and how it works. We'll see how to look up a stock ticker and tell if it's trending or not, and we'll see how you can set up notifications for tickers that you decide to follow. So we're here at the Trend Nerds website, and let's log in. Now you'll need to sign up if you don't have an account already. Make sure you enter a valid email because you will receive a validation email. You'll need to click on that to activate your account and get your 3 free follows for tickers. But once you are signed up, you can go ahead and sign in. And I'll just sign in with a demo account. So when you first sign in, you'll be taken to your dashboard notifications. Now, once you start following stocks, any daily changes will show up here. But since this is a new account, we're not following anything. So let's start off by looking at a stock. And I'll just pick one random stock. I'll look at Google. There's a search box in the top right corner. And Google is actually called Alphabet. That's the official name. But I'll take a look at the GOOG ticker. And this pulls up a Trend Nerds report on the ticker. Now, there's a lot of information here, but let's start by going down and checking out this chart. This is a chart of the last 5 years of Google. And you can see that the background is either light green or light red or pink. When the area is pink, that means Trend Nerds is marking it as a downtrending stock. So normally you would be out of the stock when it's pink and downtrending. Here we can see this green section here is uptrending, and Trend Nerds would have had us in at that point of time. And let's say that this is a stock that we would want to follow. We get a notice that says follow this ticker to access all the data. So I'll go ahead and I'll click the follow ticker GOOG, and I will follow it. So now we get access to all the information up to present time. Let me filter this down to like the last year. I'll click on the 1 year button, and you can see that in the past year, it had this big green uptrend. So you would have been in Google and you would have made 90.6%. You can see it right here in the data above the chart. But then Trend Nerds would have gotten you out right around here, like in mid-February. You would have gotten a notification saying that it's starting to downtrend. You should probably sell it. And you would have actually saved 14.9% if you had sold it at that point. And let me just back up a bit here on the chart. You can see the red section before that. You would have saved 9% by getting out when Trend Nerd says to get out, and by getting in when Trend Nerd says to get in. So for Google, it looks like Trend Nerds really does follow the trend pretty well. You can actually go back on this chart and look at any given year. We can look at 2022, which is a particularly bad year. And yeah, you can see that Trend Nerds was out this whole year. And that's good because you would have lost 38.6%. We can look at the past 3 years, and you can go ahead and experiment with this. You can modify the chart however you'd like. So looking up again, we can see some of the detailed information. We'll look at the performance chart here. And the top section is for Trend Nerds. And we'll look at the details in a second, but below the Trend Nerds data is a buy and hold comparison row. You always want to compare what Trend Nerds is doing to the buy and hold return. And if you want, you can also compare Trend Nerds and buy and hold to the S&P 500 as a whole. That's in the third section down here. So I like to start looking at this chart by looking at the 5-year number. And we can see that the return for Trend Nerds was 238.9% over the past 5 years. And if we compare that to buy and hold, we can see that a buy and hold return would have gotten us 167.5% return. So Trend Nerds is very much outperforming that. And not only is it outperforming that, but you have to look at this row called days active. You can see that we were only in Alphabet for 47.1% out of those 5 years. So in fact, the return would have been much greater than 238.9% if we had taken our money out when Trend Nerds said to get out of Google and put it into another stock that was uptrending. We would have done much better than the 238%. We can also compare the 3-year. You can see that the return is pretty much the same over 3 years, except for the fact that the days active was only 58.7%. So we're still outperforming Google by a lot. And in the 1 year, we're beating it a little bit. We're up 90.6% compared to 77% for buy and hold. So the thing you need to remember when looking at this chart is this days active field. When Trend Nerds tells you to get out, you can sell the stock and purchase a stock that's actually uptrending. If we look at this chart on the right, you can see what would have happened to a $10,000 investment over the past 5 years. For buy and hold, you would have made 26,750. If you followed the buy and sell recommendations of Trend Nerds, you would have made more. You would have made 33,000, or your total value would be 33,890. And the annualized return is if you take into account the fact that we were only active for 47.1% of the time. If we had invested in another stock when Google was out, we would have converted $10,000 into 133,000. But that's only if you would have invested the money in a similar performing stock. So again, looking at the chart, you can see that Trend Nerds really does do a pretty accurate trend analysis of what's going on. So we subscribe to Google. Let's take a look at a few other stocks. We can search for, let's say, Apple. Make sure we don't get Apple Hospitality. We make sure we get Apple Inc. So looking at Apple, let's follow this one as well so we can get access to all the information. And I'll look at the past year. And I'll actually back up to the beginning so we get this full red section here. Okay, so for this downtrend, the pink background, we saved 9.8%. It dropped 9.8%, and Trend Nerds had us out. That's great. When it decided there was an uptrend based on the AI algorithms, we would have earned 29.1%. Again, that's great. And then it told us to get out around January 2026, and we saved 8.8%. So it dropped 8.8%, but we were out. So that's perfect. Looking at the chart here, we can see that over 5 years, the return would have been 78.7% compared to a buy and hold of 108%, but we were only invested 44.6% of the time. So if we look at our comparison chart, we would have turned $10,000 over 5 years into $20,000 with buy and hold. We would have lost a little bit of money compared to buy and hold if we followed Trend Nerds directly. But when we look at the annualized return, the results are a lot better, over $36,000. And again, the annualized return is only if we would have invested in another stock because we were out about 55% of the time. So let's go back to our dashboard. I'll click on the dashboard link. And now we can go to the ticker list section. Now we followed two tickers, so let's click on the all followed tickers link. And we can see here that we have Apple and Google. Apple, we're following it, and currently it's on a sell. We're not in the stock. And we've been out of the stock since January 5th this year. And for Google, we're following that, and we've been out since February 9th. And as we saw in those graphs earlier, those were good times to get out. We can look at our Apple actions and we can stop following it. Or if you wanted to add another ticker to follow, you can go ahead and add ticker to list. You can just pull up the ticker and read the report like we did earlier. I'll hit the back button. And not only can you view all the tickers that you're following, you can create your own lists of tickers. You just create the add new list and you give it a name, and you can go ahead and make your own list of tickers. You can add tickers to that list whether you follow them or not. Below that, we have some trading ideas. Like one of the popular investments over the past decade or so has been this Magnificent Seven. If we look at that, we can see the 7 stocks that make up the Magnificent Seven. And we're already following Apple and Google. We saw that those perform really well. But let's take a look at Amazon. We can see that over 5 years, we would have returned 31.1% compared to 31.2% for buy and hold. So that's pretty similar until you factor in the days active. So we were active for 56.8% of the time. The rest of the time, we could have been invested in something else and had a better return. And you can go ahead and explore the chart on your own. If that is something you want to follow, you can go ahead and follow Amazon. Now, you're only allowed to follow 3 stocks with the free account. So you can go ahead and go to the pricing section if you want to follow 10, 25, or 50 stocks. You can select monthly or yearly for your subscription term. Going back to the dashboard, I'll actually take a look at the ticker lists again, and you can see that there's like a wide range of trading ideas. Let's go into Tech Titans, and you can see Apple and Google are listed here too. But let's take a look at a failing stock like Adobe, which has been pretty much going down the past 5 years. Here we can see that looking at the 5-year value, the return over 5 years would have been 47%, and a buy and hold, you would have lost 48%. So Trend Nerds does great when there's a failing stock. It gets you out of the downtrend. If you look at the 1-year return, Adobe made 4.8%, but a buy and hold strategy, you would have lost 36%. So you can go ahead and take a look at any of these stocks, or you can just search and look up your own stocks. I'll go to the dashboard homepage. And remember, you can always search for a ticker here. There are 2 special subscriptions you can get. You can get a top performer subscription and a new trends subscription. Let's take a look at these. I'll start with top performers. Now, we're not subscribed to top performers or new uptrends yet, but we can still look at some of the data. And there really is some wild data in here. Like we can see that this stock was up 14,000%. So when you see something like that, you really have to investigate what's going on. Most likely it's a penny stock that really exploded. But let me go ahead and subscribe to these new add-ons. So I signed in with an account that has access to top performers. And we can see that this first one listed is QMMM, the one that's making a ridiculous 14,000%. Let's take a look at what's going on. When we look at the chart, we can see that we started tracking it around 2025 in August, April. And let's just take a look at what's happening. It was a penny stock for a long time, and Trend Nerds had us in when it took off. And that's where we get this huge amount from. Now, trading penny stocks is very, very risky, and I wouldn't recommend it. But if you like the excitement and adventure of that, go ahead and try. You can look through this list and find stocks that look more reasonable, that might not be penny stocks or that might not have exploded. If we look at Babcock and Wilcox, we can see that it's did well over 5 years and it exploded more recently. We can see that overall this stock is failing, but Trend Nerds does a great job of picking the upturns. Let me just follow this. And we can see that it picked up on this huge uptrend starting in 2025. And that's where it gets most of its results from. But in this downturn, we save 73.1%. In this downturn, we save 77.4%. So Trend Nerds does get you out when the stock starts crashing, and it gets you in when it starts to take off again. Now, when it comes to the top performers, you can sort it by clicking on the label here. And you can sort it by year 1, year 3, or year 5. And we can also look and pull out the top values for 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years. If we look at the top 5-year values and sort it by that, we can get a good look at the long-term values. And looking at the new uptrends, this just tells us what has started uptrending today after the last AI algorithm took a look at it and decided what should be uptrending. I'll subscribe to this one. So now I'm subscribed to new Uptrends, and let's just sort it by the first year. We want to make sure we find something that's doing well. If we look at Unity software, we can see that the 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year are pretty good. It should have been accelerating into the 1 year, but let's take a look at it. Yeah, we can see that over 5 years, the return was 78.6%, where the stock itself drops almost 80%. And yeah, we can see the big failure, and we can see it ranging here. But then Trenders did pick up on this big uptrend last year, where it earned 89.6%. But looking at this, let's actually follow it. If we look at present time, we can see that the system has decided that a new uptrend is forming based upon these last two candles. So that's why it's showing up in the new uptrend list. But you can go ahead and look at this list to get good trading ideas. Just watch out for penny stocks and watch out for like low volume stocks that don't trade a lot. You're best off with something like a large cap stock. So going back to the ticker lists, we'll have our list of all our tickers that we're following. This is my other account. But for the notifications, you can see here that for today, it told me to sell AMD. And as we saw, like Unity software is a buy. And the notifications tab is usually the starting point, and that's where we can see all the trades that should be done that day. So by following this, I sold AMD and purchased Unity when the market opened this morning. And again, we're not day trading. We could be holding these for weeks or months or even over a year. We just need to follow the notifications as they come in daily on Trenders. And you'll always receive an email and have these new notifications in the morning before the market opens. And the final tab here is settings. You can reset your password and you can change your email settings, whether you want daily notifications or not, or promotional notifications. And if you have subscriptions, other than the 3 free tickers that you can follow, you can manage them here. So thanks for taking a look at Trend Nerds. And we can see on, stocks like AMD, Trend Nerds really does do a good job of capturing these uptrends and getting you out of these downtrends, like here. It's not always perfect, but when you compare it for AMD here to buy and hold, it really outperforms it. Not only does it outperform it, but the days active, it was only active 47% of the time. So by reinvesting when you're out, you can really grow your return. So thanks for taking a look at Trend Nerds. Go ahead and search for any ticker on the US exchanges and follow any tickers that you're interested in. You'll get 3 for free, and for paid upgrades, you can follow up to 50 tickers.